direction, meaning, purpose, from one point of view, can only be found in finding mental peace. Whatever you do in life, it has to give you mental peace. Like if you feel that you've found in life the thing that makes you happy and that motivates you, the quality of what you do is up here. But if you're motivated by the consequence of not doing it, the quality is down here.
Welcome back to Inspire Change with Jordan Mulligan. Today's video is sponsored by Huel, and they've just sent me the new Black Edition personalized box, which I'm super excited about. And it says to Jordan, ready for the ultimate meal in a bottle. Get excited to try our most anticipated product yet, introducing the new Huel Black Edition ready to drink. I'm going to dive into this later on in the video, but thank you so much to Huel for sending this through. I think this is going to be an absolute game changer. But before that, let's dive into it. One thing that's really stood out for me is purpose, because we speak about it quite a lot. And I think I was curious as to, is the path to happiness through finding purpose through faith, teachings, religion, or can you find purpose outside that box, you know, through an endeavor to help people or serve people in a different way?
Yeah, great question. I think before we get into it, I'd like to also stress that the ordained path is not for everybody, and that it's not like Buddhism, and especially our school of Buddhism, it's not exclusive. You know, to practice a spiritual path or Buddhist spiritual path, you don't have to follow the ordained way of life. You can still dedicate yourself to a spiritual path, but your training is different. This is the training of what we would call union, like the union of life, like normal life, and spiritual development. And if you were going to take that path, you would want to use your experience of daily activities, work, relationships, raising the kids, dealing with the stresses and strains of life as your training ground for training your mind. And that's completely possible and is a great part of our tradition as well. In fact, one of the most loved teachers in our tradition is not a monk. You might have seen on the front of the building these big posters because we have a senior teacher coming, our teacher from New York City. Maybe you guys can check him out the next time you're here. He's one of our most senior and most loved teachers, but he's not a monk. He's what we would call a lay practitioner. But in terms of your question about purpose, meaning, direction, I think you sort of hit the nail on the head. Like there's two aspects to spiritual development, I believe, give your life purpose and direction, meaning. One is the quest for happiness, which we touched on already. You know, like according to Buddha, every single living being, including insects and animals, have the principal wish to be happy all the time. And in every decision that they subsequently make, is informed and motivated by this wish. So everything we do in life is motivated by, I want to be happy. And some people might argue, well, you know, sometimes I do things I don't want to do. But when you do things you don't want to do, you're motivated by the consequence of not doing it. But it's still related to the overall wish, I want to be happy. Like, you know that if you don't do this thing, consequently, it's going to affect your happiness in some way. And so it's interesting, you know, like if you feel that you've found in life the thing that makes you happy and that motivates you, the quality of what you do is up here. But if you're motivated by the consequence of not doing it, the quality is down here. Like if you think of a job that you hate, how well will you do that job? You will do it enough that you won't get fired because you fear the consequences of losing your job, which will affect your overall happiness. But if you feel that that job is where you get your happiness, then you will put your whole heart into it. So there's a sort of psychology of life that begins with this aspiration, I want to be happy. And I guess from a spiritual perspective, either as a layperson or as a monk or a nun, it's the psychology of a spiritual practitioner is built entirely on this wish. And so what Buddha is saying is any subsequent wish that is in any way at odds with your principal wish, you're going away from the meaning of your life. And if your subsequent wishes and actions, activities are in line with your principal aspiration to be happy all the time, then you're finding the meaning of your life.
As always, today's video is sponsored by Huel, and today they've sent me their brand new Black Edition ready to drinks. Black Edition Huel is a higher protein content version of their drinks, and they're absolutely amazing. I drink the powdered Black Edition all the time, and I also drink their ready to drinks. So the fact they've combined these two into one is absolutely unbelievable. It has 35 grams of protein, 26 vitamins and minerals. And if I know Huel, it's going to taste great. That's delicious. I'm going to do 2. Screw it. Neve's jealous right now behind the camera. Whoa. That tastes like a chocolate brownie. That's incredible. 35 grams of protein, all 26 essential vitamins and minerals, 7 grams of dietary fiber, slow release carbs, omega-3 and 6. Honestly, this stuff is incredible, but the reason that Huel Black Edition Ready to Drink is so good, if you're training, if you're busy, if you're on the go, this has everything that the standard Huel has, but more protein. It has a higher protein content. And for me, when I'm trying to build muscle out here, especially as a plant-based athlete, this stuff is my go-to. And I want to say, this is by far the best tasting Huel. I'm not kidding. This is the best one. Thank you to Huel. If you want to find out more, go to the link in the description. Make these a part of your life. Honestly, they're incredible. Let's dive back into the video.
You know, once I was teaching on this in Australia, and in Australia, it wasn't uncommon for people to a little bit heckle or shout stuff out, which was sort of part of the challenge and the fun of it and the journey. In Britain, everyone's much more well behaved. Anyway, there was one guy who said, "Oh, well, I found the path to happiness because I found surfing." And he's like, "Well, surfing makes me happy, therefore it's in line with my wish to be happy. So I found a path." And I'll come back to that. And there was another guy I met that played rugby league. And he said, rugby league is a true source of happiness because I'm never happier when I'm running up and down the pitch with a ball. That's me, that's my place, that's my source of happiness. And so on the surface, it looks like, yeah, they found direction and meaning. But in a more profound way, if we go a little bit more subtle, actually they've not found the meaning of their life. They found really the very thing that's ultimately going to make them vulnerable. Like just with the guy with the rugby ball, with the rugby league guy, if he believes that playing rugby is the only source of his true happiness, then the more he's running, the happier he should become. But if I was running after him with a cattle prod, saying, no, don't slow down because I want you to be happy, the time would eventually come that the running itself would start to cause him first fatigue, and then physical pain, then agony, and then maybe even death, you know. And as well as that, if he maintains the belief that the true source of his happiness is running on a pitch, when he reaches old age, he's going to enter a severe depression because the one thing that brings him joy will start to be pulled away from him. And so when you really analyze these things, same with the surfing guy, when you really analyze these things, actually, these are not truly giving them direction in life. They're leading them into a cul-de-sac because ultimately these things will be what hurts them. So finally, and of course you could argue that I'm biased because I've dedicated my life to the Buddhist path, but finally, I believe you have to say, if it's true that happiness is pleasant mental feelings arising from inner peace, then direction, meaning, purpose from one point of view can only be found in finding mental peace. Whatever you do in life, it has to give you mental peace. And then another thing that you touched on, and this is the second part to this, is about altruism, like trying to help others or trying to care for others, have compassion. Once we start to understand the meaning of happiness and the meaning of suffering, which we haven't really spoken about too much so far, but once we start to understand the meaning of happiness, and we start to see how people are making so many mistakes about happiness, and these mistakes are often leading to addiction, depression, and all kinds of other problems in their life, if we can then start to become a guide for others, like dedicate our life, that doesn't necessarily mean interfering. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that I would walk around Leeds and say, all right, mate, you look miserable. You've probably got wrong aspirations. But in our heart, we start to become motivated to be the best person we can for the sake of guiding others to happiness. It may be that you have very little opportunity to put that into practice, like to actually help people. Those opportunities may become maybe few and far between, but you still find purpose in trying to become that person. And if you feel like, if you start to think, well, all right, I need to be out there helping people, then you've slightly lost the aspiration, because you've already allowed yourself to become dependent. But if in your heart, again, this is coming from the point of view of a Buddhist monk, but if in your heart you're training yourself in inner peace and training yourself to find that peace for the benefit of all other living beings, there's no doubt that sooner or later those opportunities will come. But when they come, you're already in the right place to help, as opposed to thinking I've got to be out there fixing everybody, because that in itself is a dependency. It's only when you die that you know whether you've lived a good life. The most definite thing, no matter who you are, what your background is, what you believe, what you don't believe, the most definite thing that's going to happen is death.
What are the practical steps to inner peace?
You should make every decision as though you were making it on your deathbed. Like, what would you do if you were leaving? And the result of that is you begin to leave a trail of beauty behind you.